The biggest culture shock I experienced moving to Canada was not the winter, although Canadian winter does feel less like weather and more like a personal grievance. It was everything I could not Google beforehand. How familiar words suddenly meant different things. How my accent made me feel interesting and slightly exposed. How my humor, confidence, and even friendships stopped translating as easily. Nothing dramatic happened. It was just constant, subtle misunderstanding. And that is what no immigration checklist warns you about. Moving countries does not only change where you live, it changes how easily people can read you. In my first video, I talked about moving from Australia to Canada at 14 and how 15 years later, I am still unpacking what that move did to my identity and sense of hope. Today, I want to talk about the social cultural shock. Although shock may be too dramatic, it was more of a long-term culture buffering symbol. Australia and Canada both speak English. Both are multicultural Western countries. And on paper, this should have been an easy move. But speaking the same language does not mean speaking the same culture. The words are familiar. The timing, humor, assumptions, and subtext were not. Vocabulary offered the first warning. In Australia, thongs are flip-flops. In Canada, saying, "I left my thongs by the door," creates a visual the sentence was never meant to provide. At first, those moments are funny, but eventually you notice that words carry more than definitions. They carry ease. They belong to a version of you who did not have to ask, will this still make sense here? So you start translating before you speak. You replace a word, soften a phrase, change the pronunciation, not because anyone ordered you to, but because being understood is efficient. That was my first lesson. Adaptation often begins with very small edits. Then there was my accent, and I do mean was, because it has changed enough that people sometimes question whether I was ever Australian, as though I invented an entire childhood for conversation. When you move countries, your voice can enter the room before the rest of you does. Before people know your personality, your humor, your story, they hear the difference. This can bring curiosity, compliments, assumptions, a couple of jokes that get old very quickly, and the classic, "Wait, say that again?" Most people were generally interested, but there is something strange about becoming conscious of your own voice because other people keep reacting to it. You begin hearing yourself from the outside. And at 14, already navigating adolescence, which is essentially one long, poorly managed identity workshop, that attention mattered. Because confidence is not only believing you have something worth saying. Sometimes it's being able to say it without bracing for the reaction to how you said it. The deeper challenge was that people in Canada met me at the middle of my life. They met the person standing in front of them, but not everything that shaped her. My heritage, my upbringing, my family dynamics, my old friendships, or who I was when I felt completely at ease. So if I was quiet while learning the room, people might assume I was shy. If I was observing the social rules, they might assume I was naturally cautious. If I held back a joke because I was not sure if it would land, they might assume I was more serious than I actually was. That is one of the hidden losses of moving. You leave behind people who already have context for your personality. In a new place, people can mistake your adaptation for your identity. The person you become while adjusting is not fake, but she may not be complete. She is the version of you built to function while everything familiar is being recalibrated. Humor was where I noticed that most. I used to think a joke was either funny or it was not. Moving taught me that humor apparently has regional licensing requirements. A joke depends on timing, tone, shared references, and how much directness a culture will tolerate before someone silently files a complaint in their mind. Australian humour can be dry and teasing. In a new environment, the exact same comment can land as funny, confusing, or unexpectedly hostile. And when your humor stops translating, you lose more than a laugh. Humor is how we reveal the way our minds work. It is how we test closeness and say, I feel safe enough to be playful with you. So you explain more, risk less, and become more edited. Friendship had different rules too. Every culture has its own rhythm for becoming close. How quickly people invite you somewhere, how directly they follow up, and whether we should get coffee is a real plan or a ceremonial expression. When you are new, you do not know that rhythm. Was that a real invitation or Canadian politeness? Are we becoming friends? Or are we two pleasant people who will never meet again? It can be tiring to repeatedly explain the plot of your own life. Deep friendship usually grows through shared memories and repeated moments. When you start over, that history doesn't exist yet. You have to build it intentionally. That does not make new friendships less real. It simply means closeness requires patience and returning after the first slightly awkward coffee. Before moving, parts of me existed without much thought. Afterwards, more things required calculation. Was that too direct? Was that too much? Was that not enough? Should I say it differently? When you run those calculations often enough, confidence can start to feel less like ease and more like performance. That is why many people who move become highly observant. Observation becomes protection. You learn to read tone, distance, interest, and discomfort. That awareness can eventually become emotional intelligence, but sometimes it begins as self-protection. Looking back, 3 things helped me. First, I stopped treating every difference as proof that I was doing something wrong. Sometimes I was not awkward, I was unfamiliar. Being new means you are missing context, not character. Giving myself permission to learn without judging every interaction made adaptation much less exhausting. Second, I learned to explain myself without apologizing for myself. I could say, that is an Australian expression, or my humor is very dry, without immediately trying to erase the difference. Context helped people understand me, but I did not have to make every part of myself more convenient before it deserved to be accepted. Third, I made more intentional but repeated contact. Belonging rarely arrives through one perfect conversation. It grows through returning to the same church, class, workplace, gym, community, or group of people until you no longer have to introduce yourself from the beginning. Keep showing up. Ask the second question. Accept the invitation. Extend one yourself. Let people know in chapters if that's what it takes. Familiarity creates context. Context creates trust. And trust makes it easier for your full personality to return to the room. Now, I have much more compassion for the 14-year-old version of me. At the same time, I thought I was simply adjusting. Now I understand that I was rebuilding confidence in an environment that did not yet have context of me. So if you have ever moved countries, changed cities, entered a new workplace, joined a community, or started again somewhere unfamiliar, and you felt less yourself, consider this. Maybe you were not losing yourself. Maybe you were learning how to become eligible in a place that did not yet know how to read you. The goal is not to refuse adaptation. Adaptation can make us more perspective, flexible, and empathetic. The goal is to adapt without abandoning the parts of ourselves that deserve to survive the move. Because the culture shock I could not Google was not one dramatic moment. It was the gradual realization that moving countries changes more than your address. It changes how much explanation it takes to be known. Have you ever moved somewhere and felt like your personality did not translate immediately? What small difference affected you more than you expected? And what helped you begin to feel like yourself again? Share it in the comments. The experiences that seem too small to become immigration stories are often the ones people most need language for. And if the conversation felt familiar, subscribe. In the next video, I want to talk about what happens after a new place genuinely feels like home, until, for a moment, it doesn't.